Alright, it's Christmas Day. Got all the shenanigans done, even had the goats in the house for a while. So I tied up a bunch of gear, I checked out that SD card yesterday, and I already shared what was down there with you guys in that fast pool down there. So there's obviously, at least, I saw 4 steelhead and 1 spawned out salmon. So I don't want to catch that salmon, I would never get it back up in that current anyway, with my 12-pound test line and nowhere to run down river to chase it. But I brought 4 different items to see if I can get them down there to those rainbow and get it past them on the perfect drift. But it's going to be challenging, right? Because it's so deep, it's so fast. I got to get on the other side of the fast current. So, but it's bugging me knowing they're there. I'm going to go down there and give it a go because you can't catch one unless the hook's in the water, right? So I'll take you down there with the camera. We'll see how we make out. Let's go get them. Christmas, but it's Boxing Day. It's day after Christmas by the time you're listening to this one. Hope everybody's night and day went great. I hope you guys have reached out to somebody that has found a guy, an older fella, had some hard times, living in a camper with his dog and cat. He's up the road and I found him hiding under a frickin' bridge with his truck and camper. And we're gonna go bring him a plate of turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and biscuits tonight. He doesn't know it, but he's gonna get it. Nobody's hiding under no bridge in my neighborhood without having at least a frickin' hot, warm meal, for God's sakes. Tried fishing. Late in the day, I guess, but I had to go for a few casts, especially I got some new fishing gear for Christmas. Now, I threw the camera down there a few times, so if there's anything on there, I probably would have shared it in the beginning of this video already. Dave Plottis just texted me Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas back to him, and from all of you too. I'm sure of it. But let's see who needs to be heard. Everybody gets heard. Every chance I get, somebody's gonna get heard. Alright, this is titled Sasquatch the Real Deal and or the Evil Spirit. Hello Steve, my name is Eldon. I'm First Nations, and I live in a small community north of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I lived in Squamish, BC for about 12 years. I worked for highways, plowed lots of snow on the sea to sky, hauled lots on the Sasquatch Trail up to Tapella. I did send you a couple stories. I think I remember, I think you had that truck down there, did you? You driving a truck down there, pulled over, had an encounter? However, I know you have thousands, but the reason I'd like to speak with you is about what recently happened to your girlfriend, Sarah. I don't have the time to type everything, but if you could possibly have some time to give me a call, I can talk with you about what's going on with the spiritual aspect of these beings. Don't worry, I'm a hardworking person like you, and I won't be calling you like an idiot. LOL. We all have our lives, and we need to work and pay bills. So I don't even bother my co-workers unless absolutely necessary. Anyway, please give me a shout if you can, and I'm sure you'll have a better understanding of what you and others might be seeing out there. Thanks again, looking forward to hearing from you, Eldon, in Broken Head, Ojibwe Nation. Okay, man, I'll see if I can't cut loose of that call. We'll see if we can't make it public, too, for all the people to listen to us chat about it, all right? You're going to help me, you're going to help everybody at the same time. Thanks for reaching out, man. Appreciate that. Hope you have a great Christmas, too. What's this one? Titled, Going With Your Gut. I like people going with their gut. It's the only way in life. Hey, Steve, just a quick share, back in the late 80s, I lived in Connecticut in a rural area, lots of woods. One night around midnight, myself and brother and a few friends heard knocks in the woods. That area I never went into because my gut always told me to stay out. Another time I was walking home late at night and I was being paralleled about 30 meters from me. I was on the road and this thing was in the woods. Another time the woods went dead quiet. My gut told me time to go, and that's what I did. I never put it together until I started watching you and Scott Carpenter. Thank you for everything you guys are doing, but definitely follow your gut no matter what you're doing in life. Thank you again, Jason LaBelle. You got that right, Jason. Glad you're listening to it. Probably why you're still here to type and send a message to everybody here, right? You safe out there, man. There's another one, story and links. Steve, I want to thank you for creating a great community for truth about this subject and related matters. You may use my name, of course. That'd be Thomas Rice. Thanks, Thomas. I seem to have been a magnet for strange things all my life. I understand that there is far more to this world than we can commonly acknowledge. Here's just one story. Frankly, I don't give a damn if anyone believes me or not. It was a summertime, about 76, and as usual, I was out stalking around in the woods of Iron Mountain, Arkansas, when my Australian shepherd went on full alert. When she did, a chocolate-colored strip down her back would stand up like a mohawk. This happened only once before, and this time I picked up on the fear as well. I was equipped only with a Remington nylon 66 22 caliber rifle, and I damn sure didn't want to run into wild dogs or a big cat. Honestly, I backpedaled my ass out of there ASAP without running. 2 days later, while walking home in the same general area, I was parallel to an area of heavy bush and sawbriars. We called a moonshine thicket. Without knowing the location of a few narrow game trails, it's impossible to cross. Suddenly, I could hear something moving through the thicket, parallel to me and the road, less than 20 yards away. I could see nothing, but could tell it was moving on all four legs, with very little sound. Just after this, without backing its pace, I heard it walking on two legs. What the F was my reaction? After about 4 steps, it turned to 4 legs, and just after a few steps went silent, again without running. I got the hell out of there. I wasn't as scared as I was curious. At that time, I thought Bigfoot was a myth, but big cat don't suddenly decide to tiptoe around in a thicket on 2 legs. The next day, my shepherd came up missing. She was very dear to me and a constant companion for our hikes. My father, a combat veteran, tried to track her that day and returned late with a poker face and would only say that she was gone. For him, this was his way of saying she was dead. It's 2021 now, and I'm a 63-year-old veteran myself, and I still miss Shay. Personal note. Okay, I got the personal note. Concerning the effects of sound on folk encountering the Sabe, here's a link to a discovery of something I've suspected for years. Sound can be controlled in ways not commonly known. www.eeweb.com/new sound wave discovered. Thanks, man. Thanks for that link. Thanks for all you do. I sincerely hope to meet up for a beer and a conversation one day while we can. If I ever get the funds, I want to hire your services. The primary reason is that I've had no desire to kill anything since the service, but I've begun to miss hunting after all this time, and you're the only man I would trust at this point to hit the bush with. Apologies for the long post. I deeply appreciate what you do. Sincerely, Thomas Rice. Thomas, thanks for that encouraging email and the link for all the people. Appreciate it. Sorry to hear about your dog. How many times have you heard about dogs getting killed? It's getting a little old, isn't it? Pets getting killed. It kind of pisses me off. Here's another one. Kind of ripping through them today, aren't I? Hi, my name is Kevin. I was about 13 years old. I lived on a farm and there was 9 of us kids. We growed corn and hay on this 300-acre farm. This property had a couple lakes on it, also with bass and catfish in them. So this happened in 1978 in June at nighttime. We didn't have cell phones or PlayStation. We could only watch TV for half an hour a day. And we only got 3 channels to watch, so I just wanted to camp out way back in the woods on this farm. Okay, there's no periods, no commas, okay, guys? So be patient with me. So I told my older brother Jim to meet me back there to pick me up with his buddy so I could get some beer or Boone's Farm wine in town. So I went back to where I was camping out. I started my bonfire up with some diesel fuel. It was about 10 at night. It was dark at this time. I was standing by the fire. After about 10 minutes, the fire was really doing good. And some smaller rocks were being thrown around by me. I thought it was my brother Jim and his buddy playing tricks on me. But I didn't see his buddy's truck anywhere near the trail or a laneway to get back there to where I was. This rock throwing went on for a while. I kept yelling back at what I thought was my brother throwing rocks at me. So I got pissed off and ran to where the rocks were being thrown from, which was from the cornfield that was by the wood lines. I was camping at. When I got into the cornfield, while I was running, I see the corn stalks moving around, and I'm a fast runner. I could not catch them. And there's 2 of them running through the corn. This went on for at least 10 minutes of me chasing them around. I did see a footprint in the dirt in the cornfield. They were probably 11 inches, bare footprints, which I thought was odd at the time, but I just thought my brother and his friends were trying to scare me. So I went back to the fire and waited, and here comes a truck, headlights down the trail to where I was at, and it was my brother and his buddy. I told him that was a nice trick he played on me. He said he and his buddy was in town and just come back to pick me up to buy me some beer. The only thing I can think of, the mother of Bigfoot was letting me play with her kids. I never felt scared or felt I was in danger, but boy did I get a good run in that night chasing the little Bigfoots through that cornfield. I still laugh about this today when I think about this, and let me tell you, they are fast. I have more encounters to tell you in the next email. Thanks for sharing my story. You can share my name. It's Kevin. I live in Lower Michigan. Thanks for sharing. Wow, that must have been something, especially when they got you to take the bait and come running after him. Lucky they didn't keep you. Appreciate that share, Kevin. If you got more, make sure you share them, and then just do a little bit of hit the grammar and spell check on the next one, okay, buddy? And then I'll be able to read it a lot smoother, okay? You got something to help the people. You make sure you send it in. I hope you have a great Christmas, man. This is titled, Her Sleeping Bag Was in a Tree. I had a memory recently of a camp episode that after listening to other people's posts makes the explanations of the incident very questionable to me. I'd like your opinions. You understand bears, and I don't think their involvement is the answer. During a 7th grade tent camping trip in the Sierras, one of the girls disappeared from the tent. Later, her sleeping bag was found in a tree. Her tent mates weren't awakened by the incident. It was said to be a bear which was attracted as she was on her period. I can't remember if her body was found. Thank you, Pam Hall. Okay, Pam, that's a little disturbing. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard for you to do a little more due diligence on that story, find out where she went missing, confirm it. And you know as well as I do by now, and everybody else typically has probably heard that women during their period are very susceptible to attacks by natural predators. It's been documented, very easily proven. You can Google it up and come up with all kinds of attacks. But typically, no human being gets yarded out of a tent without a real loud noise going on in a fight, especially when a bear comes and attacks a tent. I know some people that have been attacked through a tent, grizzlies have attacked them through their tent, and there's nothing quiet about it. There's nothing stealthy about it. Bears are not, they can be stealthy stalking physically, but once the attack is on, there's nothing quiet about it. All right? Especially when those dull teeth are getting pushed through the flesh of any human being, you're going to start screaming, and the tent's not going to be standing. And they're probably not going to come to the door. Right? They don't know there's a door to the tent if it's all zipped up. They just go right through the side or the end or whatever. Obviously, the sleeping bag up in a tree is a bit of a frickin' alarm bell, right? That's not good. But we need a little more details on that disappearance. I'm sure there is some for sure, especially in the local newspaper, the news around that town. They're going to make mention of a girl getting taken by a bear out of a tent and not being found ever again, which isn't possible. It's not possible. Typically, any bears, cats, They will drag. They don't like eating in the open. So what they do is they will drag their food into the nearest thick bushes. But as soon as they get in the thick bush, that's it. That's all she wrote. That's where they sit and start feeding on what they've killed or found, and then they'll bury the rest. Right? Cougar will bury their kill. They'll typically drag it away and put branches and stuff on top of it, but you'll never not find that kill. Wolves shred everything to bits. They shred it. They chew up the bones, the full skeleton. They chew it all up and they eat it all, and they make a frickin' mess. Same wild dogs. Dogs pack up and they shred the shit out of everything. So that leaves us to wonder, well, what puts a sleeping bag up at a tree? Right? Well, none of the animals I just mentioned put sleeping bags in trees. Interesting email, very disturbing one. There's another one. Mark this one as read. You guys can hear the river raging in the background down the bank. Hopefully I'm talking loud enough. All right, Sasquatch wanted my son. Hi Steve, my name is Carl Weeks. Feel free to use my name as I don't give a shit what the window lickers think or say. I found your channel nearly a year ago and I've been subscribed and listen every day. I was sorry to hear about Mac, bro. The bonds we form with our friends are deep and lasting. I know his loss, and his loss I know is hard on your spirit. I've shared this story 2 different times to your email, but without some of the details because I thought it would be too long. So I'm resending it again with the details left out before. Maybe this will find you, and maybe it contains a piece for someone else or just gives them encouragement to know they aren't in that boat alone. Okay, man, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. Let's get into it. Keep going for a pocket. We don't have any pockets here. There, I'll do it. Here's my story in 2 parts. It's 2 parts because I finally put 2 and 2 together. A little on my background. I grew up hunting and trapping with my father, so I learned very young about being in the woods. I spent most of my life hunting, trapping, and fishing, minus my time in the military. It was 28 years ago in early August, and my 4-year-old son and I were scouting game trails, and I was teaching him how to track. We had been out most of the day without incident when sometime early afternoon I caught a whiff of something very foul smelling. I first thought it was a stink-ass bear, so I kept my boy very close to me. This went on for about an hour, where I would smell it and then not. I got this strange feeling when every hair on my body went rigid. I caught movement on my left side, stopped and watched, frozen by choice. Looking around intently, I see a mass about 100 yards away in the thick firs. I knew this property very, very well, as I've hunted it for years. It didn't move. It would only move when we did. I normally never went into the woods without a weapon while scouting, but this day I did. All I had was my custom-made bowie with a 12-inch blade. I thought it a good idea to start back to the house. The whole time, every hair on my body was standing up, and I was nervous. Not scared at this point, just on alert. I've never been the type of man that gave any thought either way to ESP, ghosts, or anything along those lines. This thought came into my mind that said, "Give me the child." Whoa. My blood went ice cold, and I thought back to whatever the hell this was over my dead body, MFer. I'm a affordable man, 6'2", 265, and solid. I knew all I had was my knife, but it was going to be what it is. If that, whatever it was, came after my son, there was a huge sugar pine blown down, and I sent my son to the very top of it. I went up about 10 feet for a better look at my surroundings, points for defense or attack. I remember thinking, "Come and get it, asshole." We stayed there for roughly half an hour, then slowly made our way back to the house. I caught glimpses of something which I shrugged off as a hungry bear stalking us because of my son. We went back to the homestead, and I never said anything to my wife about what had taken place, and I never mentioned it to my son again after that day. Pretty odd, isn't it? It's odd how a lot of people don't mention things when it should be, we should be doing the opposite, especially if it's right by our home. We had been homesteading this property the last 2 years. I worked my ass off clearing the land for the house, hand dug the well and septic. I dug every footing for the house by hand, mixed over 400 bags of concrete by hand for the footing under the house. We lived in a tarp tent for 2 winters here in Maine before I had the house up, dried, in, and usable. Holy shit. That spring I was going to purchase the solar generator system for the house so we would have power. At this point, we were still using a generator. Fast forward 6 months. It was about 8 p.m. and I went out to start the generator. It was February. We had about 3 feet of snow on the ground, and there was about a 3 to 4 inch crust in the snow. And even at my size, I could run across the top without breaking through. I cleared an acre behind the house to the wood line for my solar array that I was going to purchase in the spring. I lifted the cover on the generator and choked it. I gave it a pull. I heard a crunch in the tree line 60 or 70 yards to my right. There was some moonlight, just enough so that you could make out basic stuff. I looked for a couple of minutes and blew it off as a moose or a big deer. I leaned over to pull the generator cord again, and I heard crunch, crunch. I thought to myself, this is no moose or deer or animal that I could figure. I looked again and at the tree line to my right, but I couldn't make anything out. On guard now, I went to lean forward and heard the crunch, crunch, and looked up and seen this massive figure coming right at me. It was 10 yards from the door. I was 10 yards from the door, and I hauled ass. I cleared 4 steps. There's a thin layer of ice on the porch, and as I threw the storm door open, my right leg went under it, raking up the entire shin. I remember turning as I grabbed the doorknob and looking over my left shoulder, and our eyes locked. Now, bear in mind, I was 10 yards from the door. He was 60 to 70 yards from me. And the time I covered 10 yards, this thing covered 60 or 70. What was only a second seemed like much longer. Our eyes locked, and at this point, don't ask me how or what, but it was like the sun had just came out. I could make out his face and the look on it as he was pissed off. His eyes, I'm guessing, were about 6 to 7 inches apart. His nose was down like ours. His mouth had large lips, and I remember his neck was so thick. His muscle structure was insane. The width across his shoulders was easily 4 to 5 feet. Jesus, those things are frickin' huge. He was clearly massive in size and presence. From the rafter tails on the house, it was 9 feet from the ground. He was massive. The top of his shoulder was level with the rafter tails. My guess is he was easily 10 feet tall, and if I had to guess, he was in the neighborhood of 8 to 900 pounds. As I clawed my way into the house, my fear immediately turned to anger. I looked up at my wife and kids, and she had a look on her face like I had lost my mind. I definitely felt he was a threat. I thought to myself, I'm going to kill you. I grabbed the 30-06, leaning near the door, racking the bolt and driving one into the chamber. Having no fear for my own safety, I went back to my time in combat and knew what had to be done. Out the door I went with every intention of eliminating this threat, but there was nothing. I scouted the perimeter and nothing. I went aside and my wife asked me what the hell was going on. I explained to her what I'd seen and what happened. She thought it was just a bear, but bears aren't that big here, and they were in hibernation. The next morning, I took her and the kids outside at the back of the house, and where this thing I know now was Sasquatch had come from. The strides he made were massive, easily 9 feet, and he covered 60 to 70 yards in the time it took me to cover 10. Massive and extremely agile. After that, I took the kids to the bus stop, armed to the teeth. A 50 cal gun on my side and the 30-06, and I would pick them up armed the same way. I rented a house in Bangor, Maine, and got my family the hell out of there. It was about a year later when I was sitting in a stand hunting. I remember the time I smelled that foul smell, and the words put into my thoughts, "Give me the child," came back. To this day, I still believe the two encounters were the same being. I know and believe full well they are no effing ape, despite what the mainstream asswipe Sasquatch so-called experts say. They are far more advanced than we are in thought, in strength, in speed, and ability to move through time without being noticed. There were no tracks leading away from the house, just the ones he came for me. Let me read that one more time. There were no tracks leading away from the house, just the ones when he came for me. How many times has something like that been reported? Yeah, monkey or gorilla, my ass. Those lying bastards who've been trying to keep themselves in front of the camera for how long? lying through their teeth at all of you, ignoring people like this man, when they give an honest account of the real shit that's going on out there. It's kind of funny. I haven't been mad at those guys for a while. I've never shared this story with anyone but my mother, and she agreed that they are out there. I honestly don't give a shit if anyone believes me. I know what happened. I know what I saw. Sorry this is so long, Steve. I tried to get as much of the story in there as I could. I know you get thousands of emails, and if this makes it to the channel, great. If it doesn't, at least I got off my chest. Feel free to use my name, Steve. Love the hunt stories. Keep them coming. Sincerely, your friend, Carlyle Weeks. Carlyle, I appreciate that story. I don't envy that experience. It's a shit eater. Probably give your military training the credit for reacting the way you did, right? You imagine how many people would just absolutely just freeze up and curl up in the frickin' fetal position and whimper and cry? Probably, 9 out of 10 humans react that way? It seems the more the aggressive experience always seems to be from the larger being, doesn't it? We don't normally hear about the smaller ones, the females acting like they want to kill you. You know, it's always seems to be those larger described, male-looking, 4 to 5 foot wide, mind-boggling descriptive, mind-boggling being to even try to build in your brain after hearing the frickin' description, right? But that description seems to be going hand in hand with the aggressive experiences. Does it not? That's what I've noticed. Yeah. It's a frustrating topic. You hear about that stuff and people having to move, sell their homes. That instantly came to mind when you said you're homesteading about a man that emailed me from British Columbia, and him and his wife had finally purchased their dream home, big log cabin in the mountains of British Columbia. They had cattle, and they could hear the screaming, the screeches. They found 17, 18-inch footprints in the snow, walking up to big cedar trees and peeling off the cedar bark and strips. They could see where all the strips were dragging on the snow beside the stuff. Here comes somebody driving. And then they eventually, the man, they heard the screams out back, went drive back, see what was going on. The cattle went ripping across the back 40, and then this huge 8-9 foot tall, reddish brown, hair-covered being went stomping across his back 40, screaming. And he told me that he was really concerned because his wife was coming next. She was going to come driving down a little bit behind him, either hiking or driving down. And because that's the direction it went, was the direction his wife was coming. And then they ended up selling that property. They sold there and they got the hell out of there. Done, we're out of here. And they never accepted this topic as real before that. And that was a private message on a hunting forum I was on. That wasn't through here. That was quite a while back. That really sucks, does it? Doesn't it not? People having their dream home and having to sell it. Children getting threatened. Families being threatened. Let me have your boy? What the hell's up with that shit-eating thing to put in your head? Let me have your boy. Yeah, sure. Do you want to change your clothes to go with him too? Right? Every parent's going to fight to the death over that one. Well, every parent should anyway, right? But anyway, we got to go at home. We got one of our turkeys that I processed a week ago. He's in the pot. He's getting roasted. We're going to eat him. And I hope everybody's going to have a great meal tonight, wherever you are as well, and a super Christmas. One of these days, I'm going to catch a fish and show it to you guys. One of these days soon. I'll talk to you guys shortly.